Hi, Mr. Tuji. Welcome. Good evening.
Good evening, ma.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, ma.
Yeah. So, like the practice of, well, I want to welcome everyone. I want to welcome you to today's class. Thank you for joining. It's a pleasure doing this again today. So today we'll not be wasting much of our time. We'll be going straight into the today's class, and the recordings will definitely be made available after the class. But today we'll be talking about a climate smart farming and also biosecurity measures that need to be that we can take on our farm. And we have a doctor in our midst who is going to take us through today's class. He's an experienced doctor, he's a farmer also, and he has a stream of knowledge that he's going to pass across to us today. So let's prepare our pens, let's prepare our jotters, let's prepare to learn, because today is going to be filled, right? So without wasting much of our time, I will hand over now to Dr. Sambo. His name is Dr. Sambo, to take us further in today's class. So Dr. Sambo, please, can go ahead, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Well done. Welcome to today's session. And I wish all the participants should have been on board, because I wanted to do some practical demonstration and some real-time structures, especially when it comes to the climate smart session. But from the look of things, we may have to start now, even though we are very few. So those of us that are currently on board will have the privilege of seeing some structures that I have on ground. And the class may likely be very brief, very, very brief. Sorry, I have another very important engagement by 5. So I have to leave my house by 4:30. So once it gets to 4:30, we will do the remaining session while I'm driving to the next engagement. So please just understand with me. I wish we're going to have long and much time to have this interaction. And feel free, please feel free. You can pause, you can send a chat, you can raise your hand, anything you want to add, or you want more highlights, please feel free to stop me and then point out your views and what have you. Don't forget, I'm also a farmer, as I was earlier introduced. Dr. Sambo, a vet arc beneficiary, a veterinary doctor by first degree, and I'm into basically broilers and fish farming. Of course, I do crops and other things, but I want to believe is a platform for farmers. So there may not be anything new, but just some few emphasis and then some latest development that can help make our farming business more profitable. So I'm going to launch in formally. We are just 4, of course, only 2 participants. I would have loved to see those 2. I think Mr. Tunji and Shegun Adeshina. You're welcome on board.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
And I was meant to understand today is the 5th day of your participation in this program. And I believe the few minutes we're going to have, it will be worth it. Now, we'll go into the main dish. You help me share the slides. I will take them one by one. We don't have so much of a slide.
Okay.
Can you share yours with me?
Yeah,
Can you help me
fine.
share it?
All right, let me just
Okay.
go to it now.
Yes, as she's connecting to the sharing of the slides, we're going to discuss briefly 2 topics, climate smart farming and biosecurity. And because I'm a poultry farmer, I may have to tilt towards poultry most of my samples and discussion. And luckily enough, this is my farm office, so my poultry farm is just outside. when we come to the discussion of how to mitigate or rather adapt to the troubles we're having with climate, I may likely have to step outside for you to see. So this is the topic of discussion: climate smart farming and biosecurity. So we're going to start with climate smart farming. Next slide. Climate smart farming refers to agri. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah, this one. Yeah, as you can see, let's go together. I will be explaining some few points in this whole slide. So it's climate farming refers to agricultural practices that are adapted to and mitigated. These two terms are very, very key. Either we adopt or we mitigate or we combine the two. And what it means is climate is ravaging against farm production, both crops and animals, in the sense that the heat, especially this moment now, the temperature in my office off my AC is showing about 41 degrees inside my office because there is no light. I'm using the inverter. And my poultry house that is just outside may be experiencing around 41.5 to 42. And I have a grown-up, let me use the term grown-up birds, and you can imagine how this heat is affecting them. So if you want to climatically, smartly do farming production, the two possible things you can do in order to survive this climate change is adaptation and mitigation. Adaptation, as we all know from the common English definition, is to make something suitable for a new use, or you modify or you adjust to a new condition. Since climatic changes is man-made, but not man-controlled, because there is little we can do to control nature. All we can do is to try to adjust to see how we can fit in to the changing nature, which is man-made, because it is all caused by man activities. Or we mitigate it, mitigation in the sense that we stop it completely, if possible, to see how we either reduce it to make it less severe, or we can stop it from affecting us. And we're going to look at some methods that can be adopted or used to mitigate so that we can be compliant to climate smart farming. So from the definition, climate smart farming refers to agricultural practices that are adapted to and mitigate the effect of climate change. It focuses on improving productivity, enhancing reliance to climate impact, and reducing greenhouse gas emission. This term, greenhouse gas emission, is the major problem that we are having, that is adjusting our natural habitat to a almost non-adaptable kind of climate that both human, animals, and crops are really trying to find a way to survive it. So what is this greenhouse gas that we're talking about? Let me give you a practical scenario. Right now, this is 11 minutes after 4. I don't know your own area there, but I'm calling from Ilorin. And as I earlier said, the room temperature I'm feeling right now is about 41 degrees. So at this particular period that the sun is really exhibiting, or rather emitting the heat, the gases in the atmosphere, if you have your knowledge of little geography, you know that the Earth is, of course, in a cyclical form. And then there is the atmosphere, the space between the landed matter we are having and the space up before the sun. There is a space in between that we refer to as atmosphere. And that space is not empty. It's been occupied by air. Let me use a literal language. And the air is not just a normal air, but is a mixture of different gases that forms that air. So the heat during the day, when the sun shines through the atmosphere, it warms the Earth's surface. Meanwhile, at night, the Earth's surface cools down. As it's cooling down, the heat trapped in the land, in the soil, will be released back into the atmosphere. And once it gets into the atmosphere, those gases that are mixed up, that we refer to as air, tends to trap part of that heat, and then it tends to heat up the temperature even at the atmosphere there. So it tends to have an effect of stopping the cooling down of the earth, or rather the land where we are dwelling at. And as a result of this gaseous interaction, it tends to shoot up the temperature of the earth. And this is basically caused by majorly carbon dioxide, which of course we know in our little biology that carbon dioxide is being released when we breathe. While we breathe in oxygen, we release out carbon dioxide. So we add indirectly to the emission of these gases, especially carbon dioxide, into the air. Then, as we all know, one of the major problems we're having in this carbon dioxide discharge is fossil fuel. And fossil fuel, we all know, is the petrol we use in our cars, the gas we use in cooking, the coal that is being used to generate electricity. All these tends to be part of what generates heat most of the time, and this is what normally causes the greenhouse gas in the atmosphere. Now, next slide. How do we mitigate, or how do we adapt to these challenges that we're having? As I said, we're going to be very brief. There are a few items we have here. We refer to water management, implementing water-saving techniques such as drip irrigation and rainwater harvesting can help conserve water and reduce the impact of drought. As these greenhouse gases are building up in the air, they tend to trap the atmospheric water, which is a form of vapor. We all know the water cycle. It gets evaporated when the sun gets hot. Once it gets up, it gets condensed, and then it forms rain. And then when we have rain, those of us that are into crop farming will have water. It will wet our land, we plant, and then it grows. So if we don't manage our water properly, definitely we will be allowing more of evaporation to go up. And once it goes up, it mixes up with those gases, and the gas will not allow for proper condensation, which is part of what we have most times as drought, because there are some part of the world that have not seen rain for 3-4 years. You can imagine what it means for a land not to have rain for such a longer period of years. So one of the ways we can climatically smart farm is to ensure that we manage our water properly by not just releasing water, especially those that are doing irrigation, but we can use drip system. And drip system is a precision form of farming practice that the water has indirectly been measured according to what the plant needs. Will just be discharged under the root of such a plant, and it will take it and make use of it, so there will not be wastage or spillage around. Another method we can use to implement, or rather to manage the heat up of the atmosphere is soil conservation. For soil conservation, practices such as soil conservation, tillage, and cover crops can help improve soil health. It will reduce erosion and enhance water retention, making farms more resilient and climatic. But if we do not give attention to soil conservation, we definitely is erosion and the lack of water retention. And once we don't have these two properly in our crop farming, we're definitely going to have an issue. When we step outside, I'm going to show you, even in poultry farm, there is a method we adopt to conserve the soil around our poultry houses in order to reduce excessive water loss and then make the temperature within that environment to be cooler. Then we said agroforestry, integrating trees in farming system can help provide shade, soil fertility, and enhance resilience. Now, in the proper agri practice, it is advised that if you have a farm, irrespective of the kind of doing, either livestock. We all men advise that we should plant trees around our environment. And one of the basic reasons why we do that, as I earlier mentioned, we as human beings breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. Meanwhile, the plants that we have, the green plants, any green plant, any green crop, any green leaf, normally utilize the carbon dioxide human beings discharge and convert it to oxygen as their waste product. So there is this synergistic relationship between humans and plants. So for us to have a better environment in order to control climatic changes, we always advise and advocate that we should plant greens around our farms, irrespective of the kind of farm practices we are doing. So that the more we discharge carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, the plant will utilize it and go back oxygen. That is why you notice mostly going to the bushes, but later on I discovered that the greens, the leaves, the trees they have around there, even you can practicalize it. The oxygen, the atmospheric oxygen that you inhale in town, in the urban settlement, is completely different from the one you normally enjoy in the villages. Although even the urban settlement now because of kind of that we should plant trees in our environment, irrespective of the kind of farming we're doing. Next slide. Say crop diversity. Next slide. Next slide, ma'am. Yes, crop diversity. Planting a variety of crops can help increase resilience to climate change, as different crops have different water and nutrient requirements and respond differently to weather condition. Definitely, for those of us that are into crop production, we know that there are those that that can survive droughts or late rain. I'm using myself as an example. I also plant crops. I'm a maize farmer because of my poultry. So I do plant twice in a year. And specifically, I used to use the species that are drought resistant for my first batch, which when the fourth or the fifth rain comes in, I can comfortably go ahead and plant it, and it tends to survive the early short rain. And when people are running to plant their own farm, I will always be harvesting my first plant and then follow them to plant the second one, depending on the period I harvested, so that I can acclimatize to the period and the season. So it is good for us to use different plants based on our environment, based on the kind of soil we have, so that we'll be able to retain water in the soil and we'll be able to survive the adverse effect of the climate change on our crop. The next one is integrated pest management, IPM. IPM practices are aimed to reduce reliance on chemical pesticide by using a combination of techniques such as crop rotation, biological control, and use of resistant variety. Of course, the maize variety I'm personally using is Summers 53. For those of us that knew about maize, and Summers 53 is being developed by IITA basically to resist drought, and also there is this parasitic plant trigger that normally affect maize. So this particular variety has been modified to resist the effect of that pest plant, so that the maize can grow properly. And of recent, I learned that they have developed another variety that can withstand armyworm, because armyworm is one of the major trouble we're having in Africa when it comes to maize production. They eat up the leaves, they eat up the flower and what have you, and they reduce yield at the end of production. So that is another method. Then biological control, of course. We've heard about, they will be the one to mate the female, just like the way biologically we control mosquitoes. Once they mate the female, the male tends to die. And the mating process, the semen, let me use a practical word here. The semen is already sterile, so the female will not be able to reproduce again while the male will die. So that is another biological control method. Then lastly, livestock production, especially here and outside, now to just do a little demonstration. The method we adopt when it comes to climatic smart farming is number one, in the process of constructing your house. There is a standard method we use. Permit me to use my camera. Maybe you can push me back to my video. In livestock, one of the methods we adopt, especially when it comes to poultry, you can stop sharing so that I can use my video. I just want to give us a small demonstration. One of the ways we mitigate or adopt this adverse effect of heat, thank you, is in the system of our housing construction. This is the height. Let me give a bit of. You can see the height of the leaf while the side 8 and on this way. The dimension, that is where you're supposed to take. Then blocks, at most 2 blocks, then the rest should be wire mesh so that there will be enough cross ventilation. And then as you can see, we have some birds inside. Even though they are panting, but the effect of the heat is not so devastating as those that will not have this kind of dimension when it comes to their construction. Another method you can use in adopting to this livestock, especially poultry, as I said, the system of the environment, and it helps to cushion and make the environment a little bit cooler. You can see here, the grasses are greener because it's a heat resistance. Then there are watering system too. You can see that we have to cover the overhead tank. We're using automated drinkers. So it reduces the heat from heating up the water content, so that we'll not be serving them tea, even though they are not in a. This is the fish section. We have plantain and bananas all around the pond, even though you can see they are turning brownish because of lack of rain, but at the same time, they have a way of helping the pond to cool down from time to time. Adaptation farm. And the other one we look at the back, the kind of production you're doing, you can use either of the methods to see how you'll be able to reduce the effect of this adverse weather or rather climate that is having devastating effect on our production. Thank you very much, and God bless. We have finished the first session. Any question? Because the next session will be taking it while I will be driving. So open for question, please. If there is any. Thank you. Are we together? Am I the only one?
No, we are together.
Yes, sir.
So I don't know. Is it interesting? Did you learn anything?
I learned a
Definitely,
lot, sir.
So let me hear your feedback. Any questions
Hello,
before we move to the next topic, which is yes, please.
no question from here. I don't know whether Mr.
Go
Additional
ahead,
has
I'm
a
listening.
question. Yes, I said I don't have any
Okay.
question here.
Okay.
But maybe Mr. Additional. Then except a comment, there was this pen that I saw in Thailand, which is almost like your own, but apparently I think it's at some cooling equipment.
Okay.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
We can hear you, please continue.
Yes,
Hello, Dr. Mambo.
yes, that is loud and clear. I can hear you loud and clear. Go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I said I saw a pen in Thailand where they were raising broilers, and that it had cooling equipment that was pulling hot air out of the pen and putting something that is relatively colder than the normal temperature. Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Mr. Tuji, we can hear you. I guess his network is
Okay.
Yes.
So like I said that,
Before I answer your question, if you have been to any standard hatchery, of course,
yes,
it is recommended for breeders stock to be kept in mostly an enclosed pen. And for you to use an enclosed pen, you will have to create ventilation, and it's going to come at a very serious cost. I've been to there's a hatchery I've been to at Oshogo, Toons Farm, and I think Obasanjo have it too. I've not been there, but I heard he has it. So it's like a container where there will be almost like an air conditioner, almost an air conditioning system, where the heat will be suctioned out and a cool air will be pumped back in. But you see, it runs at a cost. That is why I refer to, we have them in Nigeria, but mostly is for breeder farms because of the value of the birds. Because if you're going to have commercial farm like my own, and you want to put air condition for them, in this our lack of power system, you can imagine how much you're going to use to buy diesel and what have you. So it may not be economically viable for somebody to do it, except you're having a large stock production. Large, when I say large, not light, large stock. So it's possible. It's even here in Nigeria. I remember last year, they wanted to design a container for me where I will be fully enclosed, and it saves money because you have almost I don't want to use the word zero mortality. Your mortality rate will be reduced drastically. The one I just show you in my house now, I used to buy 1 bag of wood shaving, this 75 kg of wood shaving at 300 naira. That's what I'm buying now. So you can imagine how many times I need to replace and how much funds I have to really push into that sector. So if you can afford to have that container system, I think it's very, very best. And it's in Nigeria too. We have some farms in Nigeria that are using that. And in South Africa, I think majorly almost all their farms, I think it's like the government recommendation. Basically, they use that container system for, even if you're doing just 1,000, you're doing 1,000 birds, if you have to take that container. So, I don't know if your question has been answered.
yes, sir, you have, sir.
Yes, sir, you have, sir. Thank you. So, any other question before we move to the next topic? Okay, so let's go back to our slide. Let's go back to our slide. Our next and the last topic is biosecurity. And let me just emphasize on what I showed you at the entrance of my farm.
that heat. So for some of us that are into poultry production, knew that is a very essential request or requirement that we should have where we dip our feet before we step into the house. And reason for doing that, if you have seen it before, you may not know the reason. The reason basically is whatever germs, bacteria, fungi, virus that stick from outside, you have to disinfect or indirectly sterilize your feet before you step into the main house. So that is the basic thing. So let's go formally. Biosecurity, what does it mean? Our next slide. Biosecurity measures are practices that are designed to prevent the introduction, which people say, bringing in new disease and spread of disease. That means a disease will have already farm. So to stop it from being spread other uninfected stock, there is
Can everybody hear me, please? I think his network went off. He will be back shortly. Let's just hang on while he comes back. Can everybody hear me, please? Please, if you can hear me, let me know.
Yes. Yes, I can hear you.
All right.
Yes,
awesome.
madam, I can hear you.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So, like I said earlier, I feel like his network is bad. But let me just continue from where he stopped before he comes back. Hopefully, he gets to come back soon. So, talking about biosecurity measure, those are like the things that you do, right, to prevent anybody entering your farm from spreading disease to your birds, right? I'll give an example. There was a time where I had to go to some farms, right? And the first farm I got to, I had to dip my leg inside a water, which he was trying to explain before the network went off. I had to dip my leg in the water, and then I could not wear my slippers. The shoe I was wearing at the time, I could not wear it into the pen, right? So they gave me the farm slippers that they wear inside the pen. I had to dip my leg and wear the slippers all around in the pen. And then when I was going out, I dipped my leg also in the pit and step out to wear my shoe. So these are not just fancy measures, right? But they are done to prevent anybody coming in from spreading disease to the birds, because you understand this is a business and you don't want anybody to bring disease to your bird. So imagine that a farmer you've been to like 2 or 3 different farms already, and they are now coming to another person's farm. There are several diseases that the person might be bringing that you don't even know that person is bringing, or the person bringing might not even know they are bringing. There are several diseases. So these are like preventive measures to take, right? So that to prevent diseases from your farm. All right. So going forward. So what are some of the biosecurity measures that you can take, that you can implement on your farm? We have several, right? We have several biosecurity measures. I wish that the network is okay for Dr. Sambo to continue what he's teaching, because he's an expert in the field. But I believe that we've seen quite a few when he showed us his farm. I believe we saw his farm when he showed us his farm, and we're able to at least learn one or two on the way the structure is and the likes. Did anybody get anything regarding that?
Yes, madam.
Okay, awesome. So the first biosecurity measure you can take on your farm is restricted access. It's not everybody, right, that is allowed to come into your farm. I mean, they can come into the farm environment, but it's not everybody that is allowed to enter your pen, enter where the birds are. How can you then limit this access? You can limit this access by installing some barriers. I mean, I believe you go to some farms, you see some pens, and there are some barricades around. The barricades are not just there for fun, but they are there to restrict access. The only people that are actually authorized to, you can limit the access of people that come to your farm to just your workers and the owner of the farm, basically, right? So that the disease that will spread would not be as much as would not be much. There won't be a spread of virus into your birds. So one of the biosecurity measures to take is actually restrict access, right? Let the people that will be inside your pen are those that actually work on your farm, the workers that you have on your farm, basically. So limit access to your farm to authorized personnel only. Install biosecurity barriers such as fences and gates to control entry and exit. So let there be some barricades, right? Let there be some nets. They do some nets around pens and the likes. And the second thing is cleanliness and disinfection. So this one is the one we were trying to explain as regards the deep pit in front of the farm where you disinfect before you enter the pen. So if peradventure anyone has to enter your pen, right, you have to disinfect the person first. So in the deep pit that is always in front of the pen, yeah, there's always water there. And this water is not just an ordinary water. There are some disinfectants that will be put in the water, right? Now, these disinfectants are what has been approved. There's some disinfectant that will be added to the water. So it's not just ordinary water that you just pour inside the small pit in front of your pen and people just put their legs in. That, I mean, that has no effect, right? But in the pit that is in front of the pen, right, you disinfect that water. You already put some disinfectants, right, so that anybody that dip their leg is already neutral before entering your pen. So keep your farm clean and disinfect equipment, vehicles, and footwear regularly to prevent the spread of disease. Use approved disinfectants and follow recommended protocols. So basically, another thing is that before anyone should be allowed to enter your pen, for everyone inside the pen itself where the birds are, you should have work slippers. I think I can put it that we should have work slippers, about 4 or 5, where whoever is entering the pen would not enter that pen with the slippers they are coming to the farm with. There should be a work slippers where they can only wear inside the pen. And once you're stepping out of the pen, you pull it out inside the pen still. So that slippers is strictly for to walk around inside the pen, right? And you disinfect those slippers, you disinfect the clothes you wear, you disinfect everything, wash your hands and the likes regularly. You do this regularly. You disinfect yourself, the farm slippers, the work slippers. I mean, more like every day, right? These things are to prevent diseases from the birds, because I mean, we don't pray for disease to come. You know what happens when there is a disease outbreak in the birds in the farm, and we are not expecting that. So you take some measures, you take some implement some measures, and these are measures. We've spoken about restricted access. Now we are talking about cleanliness and disinfection. The next one is quarantine and monitoring. So in case you notice that a bird is already rejecting feeds, it's already behaving like it's not eating, it's just lying down. Before you even try to get to know what is wrong with the bird, quarantine the bird first, right? Separate the birds from the others so that whatever is wrong with that bird at that point would not spread to the others that are fine. So you notice that you quarantine new animals. That's like the brooding stage where you brood your day-old chicks, you brood them for some time before now putting them in the main pen. So you quarantine new animal before introducing them to your farm and monitor them for signs and illness. Also quarantine sick animals and seek veterinary advice promptly. So you notice that you have a new DLC that you just bought. You have to brood them first. You should for every farm should have a brooding room separately where you brood new birds to about 2 to 3 weeks, where you can now bring them out to the regular pen. And also if you notice any bird that is just, as far as the bird is just lying down, not active, not eating, not drinking water, just know that something is wrong with this bird. Separate it from the others first, even if the bird is fine. But the fact that you've noticed that is kind of sluggish, separate it from the others first. Check what is wrong with the bird before you now treat it and take it back to the others. Because if you don't take it out on time, it's going to spread the whatever is wrong with it to others. And that is going to cause a lot of damage, which we are not expecting. Another biosecurity measures we can implement is vaccination and health management. Vaccination and health management. So implement a vaccination program for your livestock and follow good health management practice to prevent disease. Consult with a veterinarian to develop a vaccination schedule and health plans for your farm. We should always vaccinate our birds. We should always give them, I believe birds have their own vaccine, fishes have their own vaccine, every animal basically, every animal, even plants have fertilizer that we have to put for them to grow, right? So every animal, every plant has its own different vaccine or fertilizer. Now, do not deprive your birds of vaccine. Do not deprive your fishes of their drugs. Do not deprive any animal we are rearing of the necessary drugs and vaccine that they need. Also, do not deprive your plants. If you're a crop farmer, do not deprive your plants of necessary fertilizers they need to grow. It's because just the way, imagine that you just finished working now, got home and okay, I think it's back now. We can continue. Welcome back, sir. You can please continue.
Hello.
Yeah, welcome back, sir. You can please continue.
So sorry. Sorry, the thing just bottom.
Yeah, we understand, sir. It's fine, sir.
No way. Hello, but we are still together.
Yes, we are still together. We are together, sir.
We are still together, sir.
Hello. Okay. So sorry about that breaking transmission. So sorry. My internet changed from the office to the cellular, so it could not stabilize on time. So let's continue. We have started talking about biosecurity. Can you hear me?
Clearly.
All right. So as we are introducing, or rather we are finished introducing, is a method to prevent the introduction of a new disease or stopping or reducing the spread of already established disease in our livestock, or rather in our poultry or our fish farm. Next slide. What are the methods that we can adopt in order to mitigate, to rather reduce diseases in our farm? One of the methods is restricted area. If you notice from the video I showed you of my farm, within a surrounded wall, of course, once I have birds on ground, I don't allow people to come to that section of the farm. Some of us are very funny. Once we have friends to come around to see what we are doing, I can tell you that already kinds of diseases. So there is need for us to have gates, there is need for us to have a restriction on movement of people coming in and going out. Then cleanliness and disinfection. As we have the popular saying that cleanliness is second to godliness, it's not all can't lock dirt to another method of ensuring clean environment and disinfection. Peat is good part is so and a disinfectant. So that any vector or any disease causing organism, it will be killed instantly. So there is a need for us to disinfect it. Then for some of us that are into poultry, we know the system after each production, there is a name at least for 7 days, disinfect, clean up, wash all the drinkers, the feeders, remove all the cobwebs, clean the floor, remove all the litter, allow it to dry, air dry before we can bring in new stock. Then also another method we use in biosecurity is quarantine and monitoring. Quarantine in the sense that for those of us in livestock, maybe you're doing cow, sheep, and goat. When you buy a new cow, sheep, or goat from the market, you don't just introduce them into the main flock immediately. You have to isolate them in one place and wait and see. Maybe give them some few days to see if there's no manifestation of any disease. Then you can introduce them to the new flock after you have given them some preventive medication. And if you want to better understand the meaning of quarantine, during the COVID-19, we all know what it is. Once you come from a foreign country, they tend to keep you aside for 2 weeks, either in a hotel or somewhere where you cannot speak with other human beings, in order to monitor if you're carrying any causing organism, so that if it can be treated, and if it's not manifested that you don't have any, they can just give you preventive dosage of drugs, and then you can join the population. The same methodology is applied in our livestock production. Then, of course, when you now have some sick ones, if you notice some sick ones, there is urgent need to isolate them and quarantine them to be treated and be monitored separately from the main flock that are healthy. So that's another method of biosecurity. Next slide, vaccination and health management. Next slide, yes, vaccination is very, very essential. As I earlier said, once you have a good biosecurity measures in your farm, you may not need to bother about so much of antibiotics. All you need to use maybe a supplement such as hello, can you hear me? Sorry again, no. Can you hear me?
Yes,
This is
we
the
can
last
hear
slide.
you now, but we are not hearing before.
Are we together? Beautiful. As I was saying, vaccination is not something you can do away with, irrespective of your biosecurity measures. Vaccination is a method of ensuring you guarantee the health of your livestock for the future. So you cannot substitute your biosecurity with vaccine. In as much as you put in your biosecurity measures, you will need to use vaccination in order to prevent, especially on viral diseases in your stock. Then cleanliness and disinfection is that here we mentioned it before. Then biosecurity training. It's not just for you, the owner of the farm, to take biosecurity measures, but your staff, especially when your farm is beyond one person management. You need to train them, you need to enlighten them, you need to let them understand what it means and how to go about it by you yourself doing it. It doesn't mean because you're your guy, you come to the farm, you're in a hurry. Just like my farm, I will not dip my feet inside the deep. I will just walk into the poultry farm because it's my farm. of us and giving them a wrong training. So it has to start with you, the owner. When others see what you're doing and they see the result, they will definitely find it easy to comply. So that is that about biosecurity for now. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you very much, sir. Really appreciate.
Okay, any questions? Okay, if there is no more question or any more questions, I will hand over to our host. Thank you for your time and understanding. Remain blessed. So, Madam, take over.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. We really appreciate your time with us. Thank you so much. Thank you for always coming whenever we call you to speak. Thank you very much. It's such a pleasure working with you. I want to say, I believe that we've learned one or two things in today's class. In fact, more than one or two things, we should have learned a lot in today's class. Class is filled with a lot. And the recordings of the class will definitely be available and to be sent hopefully tomorrow for us to go back again, because we have to go back again and relearn from what we have learned today. So if we have any questions or contributions, or you have something to say, we can say that now in the next 2 to 3 minutes before we call the class a day. Are you trying to say something, Mr. Shegun?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
All right, okay, awesome, that's fine. So if there are no questions, I mean, if you still have more questions, you can drop it on the Telegram channel later. But if there are no questions, I will be glad to announce that Friday is going to be our last class for this training. Friday is going to be our last class for this training. I believe that it has been an amazing ride. It has been a wonderful ride. And we are grateful to everyone that has been participating. I hope that you've learned one or two things. We believe that this class is not a waste. Like every of the classes are not a waste. And we hope that you will use everything you have learned for better things in your farm and your environment. So if there are no other things, I believe we can call it a day today. We can call it a day and say thank you, Dr. Sambu. Thank you, everybody, for joining today's class. We'll see again for our final class on Friday.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye.